Dreams. Dreams can be good. Dreams can be bad. And dreams can alter and tweak the balance of a game. And back on August 3rd, 2017, those dreams came true. Please wait, I'm just trying to... Hi diddly ho, Hollow-Renos! Are you someone like me who started playing Hollow Knight after all the updates were released? And you're curious as to what exactly was changed in this game since its release? Well, this is the series that might be for you no less, as I aim to cover exactly what was added to each major update to Hollow Knight for folks such as you. You see, as time goes on, more and more people are going to pick up and play Hollow Knight and see in the main menu here that it has a bunch of updates that were added to the game for free. But these lists are kind of vague and leave out some pretty interesting stuff. Now I know for some of you, Hollow Knight and these updates might still feel brand new, but that becomes the case less and less each day. So I decided to create this series for everyone playing Hollow Knight for now and the future to see exactly how the game was changed over the years. And today we start off with its first ever major update, Hidden Dreams. Now first up, because people would argue that this is the most interesting part of an update, we have all the new stuff that was added into the game. This is everything that is brand new, not just things they changed or updated or yada yada, you get it. Okay, let's just get into this Fudge. Alright, so first we gotta go over these two doofuses here, as these are the two new hidden bosses that you can now fight with this update. And both of them are actually dream bosses, meaning they act like bosses such as the failed champion and Lost Kin. Except interestingly, you aren't fighting the dreams of a deceased individual, but rather, well, hold on, we'll get to that in a sec. So first up we have the White Defender. He's a dream variant of the Dung Defender who you can find sleeping below his original arena only after you have defeated all three dreamers. Also you need Desolate Dive to get in there, just letting you know. Dream nailing him when he's asleep will send you to this fight, and honestly, I love this fight. Not just from a gameplay sense, but also from a lore sense. For those of you who don't know, the Dung Defender used to be one of the 5 great knights of Hallownest back in the days of the king before everything went to, well, piss. This dream takes place back in his glory days as one of those knights, and you can see the memories of the other 4 and the king himself in the background there watching on. It's honestly a really interesting insight into his character. Haha, poop. Also, fun friggin' fact about this fight, you can fight him 5 times, but each time you fight him, he does 1 additional mask of damage with each of his attacks, meaning that by the 5th fight, 1 hit from him will knock 5 gosh dang masks off of you. God damn! So you guys all know Zote, right? Fearless hero of Hallownest and the true main character of the game. Well, after his victory in the Colosseum of Fools, you can attempt to rematch him while he enthralls Bretta with his 57 precepts. Essentially, you can go into Bretta's house to find her new obsession has become Zote, and has added a new room in her basement with a glorious statue dedicated to him. Dream nailing this statue will send you to the fight with the terrifying, beautiful, powerful Grey Prince Zote, a larger Zote with a far more fleshed out moveset than in the Colosseum. This fight is honestly pretty engaging despite how it looks. I especially like the move where his ground pound waves are at different heights on each side. But there are a few interesting notable details about this fight. First of all, at this point in time, Hollow Knight history-wise, there was 10 candles around his statue, with each candle being lit each time you defeat him. With each rematch, he becomes more powerful, with more health and does more damage similar to the White Defender, although not quite the same, as he only starts doing more masks of damage on the 4th rematch onwards to the 10th. Also, with each fight, a new adjective adds to his name, eventually culminating in the invincible, fearless, sensual, mysterious, enchanting, vigorous, diligent, overwhelming, gorgeous, passionate, terrifying, beautiful, powerful, Grey Prince Zote. But what do you get once all the candles are lit anyway? Well, you'll be pleased to know that his statue turns gold. Also, Bretta leaves. But I should note here that after a future update that I will be covering further down the line, they reduced the amount of times you need to defeat him in order to light all the candles, reduced to 4. Although to get the statue you still need to defeat him 10 times, just letting you know that, okay, bye. Interestingly though, in order to even unlock this fight, there are quite a few steps that you might not even consider you need to do. First, you need to save Zote from the Vengefly King in Green Path. Then you need to save Bretta from the Fungal Wastes. Then you need to save Zote from Deep Nest. And then finally you need to defeat him at the end of the Trial of the Warrior in the Colosseum of Fools. Plus you obviously need the Dream Nail and apparently also the Monarch Wings, and only then can you fight this boss. Now of course none of these things are particularly hard to do, but it's interesting to think about all the steps you need to do just for this one optional boss. But anyway, if we cut back to the fight, we also see another new thing that was added, which is the new... There are 3 new enemies total in this update, and they are all Zotelings, a new form of Zote that the Great Prince summons during his fight. Now the first one is the Winged Zoteling. This guy will appear in all the fights with Zote. It just flies around and passively runs into you. Or floats into you, I guess. The second is the Hopping Zoteling. Now this guy only spawns in the fights after the first, and they just hop at you and the such. And the final Zote is the Volatile Zoteling, and they only appear in the 3rd battle onwards. These guys just float around and explode at you, dealing 2 masks of damage, which can eat my freaking beans, dude. And that's literally all the enemies that were added in this update. But yeah, remember that the Hopping and Volatile Zotelings only spawn after the 1st and 2nd fight respectively. For all of y'all who are grinding on that Hunter's Journal, oh yeah, boy! So yeah, to accompany the 2 new bosses, 2 new tracks were also added. Firstly, there is the aptly titled White Defender. And the not quite so aptly titled Truth, Beauty and Hatred. Now they're both brilliant songs, but personally I think I prefer the White Defender one because it's an awesome heroic remix to an already awesome and heroic song for the Dung Defender, and it's just a straight up bop. There, I said it. Now one new ability was added in this update and it's a doozy. They're calling it the Dream Gate, the new hip trend that has kids everywhere warping wherever they please. So yeah, basically the Dream Gate is a new reward you can get from the Seer after getting 900 Essence. Its function is fairly simple. You use it somewhere and create a Dream Gate there. Then, at any point from just about anywhere, you can warp back to that designated point at the cost of just 1 essence. Now you can only have one of these mad lads, as making another one just replaces the last. Now this is one of those abilities that seems amazing and borderline broken at first glance, but I don't know. I don't really find myself using it much, like ever really. For me, I personally think it's a combination of getting it kind of late game and needing to spend essence just to use it. The fact that I'm never 100% sure when or if I'm ever going to need it, and just straight up forgetting it exists. Clearly that's just my experience though, and I'm stupid. I'm sure it can be used to amazing effect in more routed runs such as speed runs, or even just a handy tool to get back to Dirtmouth or something. So yeah, it's an amazing addition that I don't use because I am dumb. Oh yeah, and fun fact, it doesn't work with the delicate flower, so you can just forget about it. So this is kind of both minor and major. They just added one little extra room, but that room is the entire stag station found in the ancient basin on the right side of the White Palace, which is pretty freaking sweet, Lois. I can't do a Peter Griffin, I don't even know. It's honestly super handy to have this right here. It means you don't have to make your way all the way to the bottom tram just to get here. And it also makes total sense that there would be a stag station right here next to the King's Palace, right? This is a great addition, and I will never argue that, but why is the bench on the other side? It's just weird and gross. I don't like it. Ew. There's a new menu style, and you can select it and it goes all dreamy. Yay! So next I'm going to cover the changes that occur to things that are already in the game. Doggy. And while yes, there was a few general boring balance changes here and there are actually a few interesting little tidbits that I honestly find quite fascinating to find out retrospectively, which is kind of the whole point of this series, so yeah. That's right folks, this update introduced the oh so useful ability to gain the occasional sliver of essence from the odd enemy 15 times in a playthrough. No, but for real, the odds of getting a fraction of an essence from an enemy is pretty insubstantial in the long run. And believe it or not, there are actually different percentages on whether or not you get essence based on the dream gate, but honestly, even when considering all these exciting numbers, it's pretty minuscule, and I honestly can't see many people using this to their advantage. In my playthroughs, it's always just been like a nice little extra that I passively get as I play. Though the real reason this was added was so there was technically an unlimited amount of essence to make the dream gate viable without losing out on anything, but there isn't much point to it outside of that. Other than to make the world's longest lowest percent true ending speedrun, of course. So you guys know Revek, right? He's this guy. Right here. He guards the Spirit Glade where all the Kickstarter backer bug ghosts are. Well, in this update, they, well, they didn't add him, but they honestly might as well have. So when you enter, he warns you that if you dream nail his homies over here, you're gonna meet up with the mean end of his nail, and yeah, that's what happens. Every time you dream nail a ghost here, he attacks you, dealing 2 masks of damage with each strike. But like, not before this update. So before, he warns you, he exists, he says this line, but he didn't do jack. He literally didn't attack you at all before Hidden Dreams, which is such a weird thing to consider. They added him in the original game, but just had him do nothing? My theory is that they actually had planned or even programmed him to attack but either forgot or ran out of time. Regardless, it's an interesting little detail to know that if you somehow possess a copy of Hollow Knight without Hidden Dreams, you can get a handful of free essence, I guess. So here's one that might get your gander a-quacking. So when I first played Hollow Knight, like many others before me, I encountered this friendly little fellow down the dank gold deepness and curiously followed him down to his wine cellar where he promptly kicked my friggin' ass. I have vivid memories of attempting to fight Nosk here over and over again for about an hour before I just frankly gave up and looked up if there was any kind of strategy to him. Well, as it turns out, he was a bit too much for my puny little dumbass nail at the time, so I said, "So long, Gay Bowser," and gave it another go later when I leveled up, as the gamers say. But even upon my return, while I did have a much easier time with him, it was still somewhat of a challenge for me, and has since stood out in my mind as one of those more challenging bosses in the game. Even now, on repeat playthroughs, while I am far more experienced, I still prepare a few nail upgrades ahead of time, just to be safe. But you know what the most interesting thing about this is? If I had told anybody about that before this update, I would have been laughed out of the room, because until Hidden Dreams, Nosk was considered one of the most laughable disappointments of a pushover boss in the game. So believe it or not, when the game first came out, Nosk only had 2 attacks, the one where he runs backwards and forwards, and the one where he plays a bit of impromptu hopscotch. And yeah, I can totally see why this would be a disappointing boss. I mean, after all that build up, running and jumping can only be so scary. But in this update, they added 2 brand new moves to his pool. The first being Eruption, where he sprays his icky paint like goop all over the dang joint, and the other is Rain, where he cleans out the gutters in the ceiling. You see, these are the kind of juicy, interesting details that prompted me to do this series, as until I did my research on these past updates, I would have never have known that he was considered the sleep paralysis demon equivalent of a Goomba. Like, up until this update, Nosk was considered a joke, a buffoon even, and a letdown of a cool build-up. And to be fair, there are many people who still feel this way, but my first experience was untainted by expectation, and as a result, will forever be a memorable one. So this is a very minor detail, hence why this is the last thing I'll be covering, but did you know that in Deep Nest, right before the Hidden Village, there was a toll gate for 50 Geo? I know that doesn't sound like a big deal at first, but it served as a peculiar and frustrating barrier as you couldn't access the toll gate without the Lumafly lantern, much like this gate here between the Forgotten Crossroads and Crystal Peak. As a result, it changed what would otherwise be a fairly optional item to a required one. I mean, seriously, imagine getting all the way through Deep Nest without a lantern and then being turned away just because you can't see the damn vending machine. It's one of those changes that didn't necessarily need to be made, but it showed that Team Cherry was indeed listening to player feedback and took things like this into account, which is pretty dang cool if you ask me. And that's all folks for the first major update in Hollow Knight. All in all, there honestly isn't a ton of stuff to go over here, but I hope that the few nuggets of info I gave you guys who were unaware of what had been added and changed will be something to consider next time you're prowling around Hollow Nest, no less. I'm very excited about this series because honestly, I love Hollow Knight and it honestly feels wrong of me not to make more content about it. I mean, not only do I love it and it's a great game, but I also adore the art style and I've taken a lot of inspiration from it myself. Also, and this is really weird, and I don't know if you guys will understand this, but Team Cherry, the guys who make Hollow Knight, are located in Australia, in Adelaide, Australia, which is literally the same city as me. And like, you need to understand that this is a pretty small nothing city. And to hear that something so amazing, so life-changing, and so huge was made right next to me fills me with some kind of wild emotion I can't even describe that somehow manifested in this video series. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I gotta say for now. Next time we'll be diving into a far bigger update, the Grim Troop, of which I am also looking forward to. Anyway, I've been Ihasnotomato, and remember to eat pant.